Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So, obviously, folks, we know that we're getting set to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers here on Sunday. Much like the last game, it's a big game. This game, it's big because of the fact that the Lions' margin for error, there is no margin for error. That's pretty much the summation of it. If we lose another game, our chances of going into the playoffs become very, very difficult. If we win all 3 of our remaining games, we still have a very strong chance of getting into the playoffs. But it all starts with getting the win against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home on Sunday. That's where it all starts. Now, when it comes to the conversation about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to tell you this right now. Just looking at the research that I've done on both the Steelers offense and the Steelers defense, this is a very perplexing kind of opponent here. It's very difficult to try and, look at it and say, okay, here, well, how exactly do we figure out what's the best approach for beating a team like this? And so when I took a look at the numbers, the analytics, and all that stuff for the offense and the defense of the Steelers, I honestly had to kind of look at it not as 2 separate stories or 2 separate units. I had to look at it as, okay, the best way to beat this team is you've got to go and look at it like, okay, these units are going to have to play, and I'm talking about our units, both offense and defense, they're going to have to play, what's the word here? Synchronous with one another. Another way you can call it is complementary, which obviously that's what, everyone says with every game. But when it comes to this game, it is especially true. But for this episode, we're going to talk about the Lions' offense against the Steelers' defense. Which, when we're talking about the Steelers, they've always had really, really damn good defenses. Whenever they have a bad defense, it's usually a one-off. Especially over the last, 20, 30, 40 years. Like, they just have always had really damn good defenses. This year's defense, it's a mixed bag in terms of the basic stats. But one area where this particular defense is really, really good is the one area that can really make or break teams winning games, which I think is a big reason why the Steelers are 8-6. Because as I'm about to show you here with their defensive stats, and as I'll show you later in another episode with their offensive stats, their numbers just don't make much sense as to be like, how in the hell is this team 8-6 when their numbers are the way they are? But after looking at the numbers and looking at the opponents and, doing as deep of a dive as I could into all this, I was like, the reason why the Steelers are the way they are is because of their defense's ability to really get opportunities for their offense to score. That's honestly where, everything for their team, it kind of starts and ends. Take a look at the stats as I put them up on the screen for the Steelers defense. You're going to notice something. None of their stats or their rankings are particularly impressive. Most of their stats are middle of the pack towards the bottom of the rankings. But there is one area where they are really good. And you want to know what that is? It's their ability to get takeaways. They're literally ranked 3rd in turnover percentages for ending drives. 15.2% of their defensive drives end with them getting a turnover. That's 3rd best in the NFL. Which I was like, oh, that's how they're doing it. They're doing it, they're getting their wins by primarily having their defense get takeaways, which allows their offense, as I'll talk about in another episode when I'm talking about our defense, to have shortened fields and not have to strain as going down the field as much as they have to because they're getting those takeaways and they're setting themselves up in pretty good field position more often than not. Because when you take a look at every other single statistic that I have there for their defense, it's not too particularly impressive. They're ranked 19th in total yards rushing giving up. They're ranked 27th in pass yards given up. They're ranked 27th in third down conversion percentage and 31st in fourth down conversion percentage. They're ranked 28th in total yards given up, 29th in first downs given up, and they're ranked 18th in points given up. I mean, the numbers just don't make a hell of a lot of sense unless you understand that getting those takeaways, getting those turnovers is what has been the Steelers' saving grace, not only for their defense, but for their offense. That has been what has been able to allow them to win the games that they have won. Because if you think about it here, the Steelers have played a number of, I would say, pretty decent teams this year. Not all of them have been really good, but some of them have been really, really damn good. But if you take a look at the majority of the games that they have played, they've gotten turnovers in those games. And some of them, they've gotten in bunches. They won game against the Indianapolis Colts. They got 6 turnovers. 6! I mean, it's just ridiculous how opportunistic this defense is. But the reason why I think the Lions, as my title states, have these unique traits or trait that can crack the Steelers' defense is because where the Steelers' defense, their strength is in getting takeaways, the Lions' offensive strength is in not giving takeaways. That's why my thumbnail image says strength versus strength. The Steelers' defense is really good in getting takeaways. The Lions' defense is the best in not giving takeaways. Think about that. Lions' offense has the lowest turnover percentage per drive of the entire NFL throughout the course of this year at 5.2%. The Steelers' defense has the third highest turnover percentage per drive for their defense at 15.2%. Pretty much what this game is going to come down to is, okay, which team can play the best in terms of not turning the ball over or in terms of getting turnovers? So when you think about it, that is going to make a huge difference here. And it's going to make a huge difference for the Steelers' defense because, oh, that's right, not only is the Lions' offense the best offense in terms of not turning the ball over, it's also the best in something else. It's the best scoring offense in the NFL. It's number 1 in points this year. Which, oh, by the way, the Steelers' scoring drive percentage, so drives that end in scoring, is 42.1%. That ties for 21st lowest. So that's why the Steelers' defense has been able to get things done, is because they're getting turnovers. Now, how is this going to work for the Lions' offense? Well, let's understand something here. This is not the first time that the Lions have gone up against a top defense in terms of forcing turnovers. In fact, they have gone up against 3 previous defenses that have been in the top 10 for forcing turnovers. You want to know what their record is in those games? They're 2-1. Now, when you flip it on the reverse side, the Steelers have gone up against 2 offenses who are in the top 10 for rarely turning the ball over. You want to know what their record is in those 2 games? 0-2. That, to me, is a pretty big, resounding, kind of a way to look at this whole argument. The Lions have gone up against really good defenses in the past that are really good at getting turnovers, and they've won 2 out of the 3 times they've done it. In the 2 games that the Steelers have gone up against offenses that don't really turn the ball over, they've lost both of them. That to me is a really, really big key difference here, and that's one of the unique traits that the Lions have this year. You know what? They've been inconsistent at times, but one of the things that they have been really good this year about not doing, which is good for their offense, is not turning the ball over. And that speaks volumes when you're talking about a defense like what the Steelers have. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about this game, in my honest opinion, is that the Lions can really do whatever they want offensively in terms of running the ball or throwing the ball. Because, as I already pointed out just a few minutes ago, the Steelers don't have a particularly strong run defense or pass defense. They're just good at getting turnovers. But in terms of everything else, it's not particularly good. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I want to take a look at this from a little bit of a deeper perspective here. So I did. So let's think about this from the perspective of another thing the Steelers are really good at. They're really good at getting sacks. They're really good at getting after the quarterback. Well, I was like, okay here. Lions have had to deal with this problem all damn year long. But the one thing we know about the Lions and the one thing we know about Jared Goff is that he is a big-time blitz beater, and he has been really good at evading sacks and not putting the offense in a bad spot. So again, here's what I'm going to do. I want you all to, again, take a look at these stats. They're a week old, and again, the reason why is because I can't access the database that I normally would access. But again, the numbers have not changed that much. When you take a look at Jared Goff's stats, when he's gone up against the blitz this year, he's tied 4th in completion percentage. He's ranked 10th in passing yards, ranked 5th in pass average per throw, tied 7th in passing touchdowns, tied 1st in interceptions, which is 0, which again plays to the turnover drive percentage that I was talking about earlier, and he's ranked 3rd in passer rating. That's important. It's really important. You want to know why? Because the Lions just got done playing against a team that had a really damn good defense. That would be the Rams. The Rams, currently as it stands right now, even after playing the game against the Lions where they gave up 34 points and Goff had himself a damn good day, they're still tied 3rd in the NFL in terms of points given up. They're still a top 5 defense, top 3 actually. But yet, you want to know what Jared Goff's numbers were in that game? I've already showed them before, but I'll show them again just for the point of this episode. Goff completed 61% for 338 yards, 8.2 an average a throw, 3 passing touchdowns for 7.3 touchdown percentage rate per throw, 0 interceptions, 0 interception percentage rate per throw, 111.6 rating with a 90.2 QBR. So, okay here. You have a defense that you're going up against that's really good in getting sacks and is really good in getting after the quarterback and getting turnovers. The Lions just played against a defense that's also really good in those categories. Goff was sacked 1 time in the game against the Rams. He didn't turn the ball over once. And Goff had a 110-plus passer rating with a 90-plus QBR, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 325 passing yards. So what does that tell me? Considering the fact that the Steelers have a really bad pass defense in terms of giving up yards and giving up touchdowns, even though they've gotten 12 interceptions, it tells me this, that again, if the Lions are able to limit or not give any turnovers and Goff continues to play at the level he's been playing all year, which is MVP level, you've got yourself the ability to win this game against this defense because the one thing the Lions have done really well is not turn the ball over. Now, that also means, like I said, about running the ball. Now, the thing that's different about the Steelers' defense versus the Rams' defense that we just played against is that the Rams' defense was a lot better, if I recall correctly, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident I'm right, was a lot better in terms of their numbers running the ball, in terms of run defense, than the Steelers is. What does that mean for us? Well, considering the fact that we weren't able to get our run game going because, again, Dan Campbell put the wrong running back in at times, if the Lions are able to balance the defense in terms of what running back they're using, which I would state for this, for a defense that is as tough and physical and hard-nosed as the Steelers is, this would be a game that you would like to use David Montgomery a lot more because, oh, that's right, What was a game that David Montgomery played in and did really well in that was also against a defense that is known for its toughness, its hard-nosed attitude and gritty factor? That would be the Ravens. The Ravens are also known for that. Now, granted, their defense didn't play like that, but the style of running you're going to want to put into your offensive game plan, it falls right within that category. So if you're going to run the ball, make it balanced. But you're definitely going to want to make sure that Monty has a very pronounced, very prevalent, presence in this offensive game plan because that's what he does really well. Then I started going even deeper than that. I want to show you guys some more numbers here. Like I said, the Steelers' pass defense is not really good. In fact, I want to show you how that pass defense has done against when they played against the four worst passing offenses that they played against and the four best passing offenses that they played against. The four worst passing offenses that they played against this year are the Vikings, the Jets, the Bengals, and the Browns. Now, four worst passing offenses, but 5 games because they played the Bengals twice because, well, they're in their division. They're going to play them twice. That's what happens in every team. Well, when you take a look at those 5 games between those 4 bad offenses that are passing offenses, this is what those passing offenses did. They got 62.3% against the Steelers for over 1,300 yards, 6.4 an average to throw, 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with an 86 passer rating. Now, why is that important? Well, the reason why it's important is because if you go back to the Jets game, which was the very first game of the year that the Steelers played, that was a barn burner. I watched that game. The Steelers had to go back and forth with the freaking Jets all throughout the game, and Justin Fields was absolutely lighting their ass on fire. Joe Flacco, freaking in the one game with the Bengals, he had himself an absolutely ridiculous game. Threw for almost 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That right there tells me something. If guys like Fields and Flacco and Wentz and Dylan Gabriel, because this was before Shedeur Sanders became their starter, if they're able to have decent passing games against that Steelers defense, which again, opportunistic and can sack the quarterback, imagine what Jared Goff is going to do. Especially considering the fact of how Goff has played all year, but also considering the fact that he's got Amon-Ra St. Brown and he's got, Jameson Williams. And on top of that, you still got Gibbs as a receiving option as well. And Khalif Raymond is back. And you still got Isaac Tesla roaming out there. Oh, and by the way, in those games, they freaking also had a decent running attack in most of them. In 3 out of the 5 games against those bad passing offenses, those offenses also got 100 yards or more. Now, the one thing for the Steelers in that case is that of those 5 games against those worst passing offenses, they were 4-1 in those games, okay? Now when you flip it over and you talk about the 4 best passing offenses that they played against, they were against the Patriots, the Bills, the Seahawks, and the Packers. In those 4 games, they're 2-2. And in those 4 games, all but one of them did the opposing offense that I was just referring to got over 100 yards. And the one time that they didn't, they were only short by 6. And in one of those games, one of those offenses actually got almost 250 yards rushing. In those 4 games against the 4 best passing offenses they played against, the quarterbacks had 72.3 combined completion percentage rate, almost 1,050 passing yards, 8.1 an average a throw, 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, which again plays with their turnover ability, their opportunistic defense, but still finished as a collective 4-group unit with 103.6 passer rating. That's important. Because we know Jared Goff is playing at an MVP level this year. We know that when the run game is going, it makes it even more pronounced. And since, like I said, in 3 out of those 4 games, those offenses got over 100 yards, with one of them almost being 250, it tells me this. Steelers' run defense, not good. Steelers' pass defense, definitely not good. The only thing about their defense is their ability to get turnovers, which again, that's the one thing the Lions are number one in this year other than scoring. But then I dived even deeper. I took a look at all the games that the Steelers have played this year. They have played 5 games, sorry, how do I phrase this? In the games at home, when they've played at home, they have been 5-3 in those games, which is a 6.25 win percentage rate. When they've been on the road, they've been 3-3, which is 500. Well, we all know where they're going to play the game against us. They're coming to Ford Field. And Ford Field is one of the hardest places to play at because multiple fans that have gone to those games have said it is loud, it is raucous, you can hardly think in there. Now, for the Steelers, the one good thing they've got going for them is that Rodgers has played in there multiple times, so he's used to it. But the Steelers as a whole team are not. So, what do I think about the Lions' unique traits here? The fact that they have got a quarterback that's playing at the level that he is, that doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. The fact that the entire offense does not turn the ball over a whole lot. The fact that our offense as a whole has put up 30-plus points in 8 out of our freaking 14 games this year. And the fact that the Steelers' defense is not particularly good at stopping teams from scoring, either in terms of their score drive percentage or in terms of the points that they've given up. And on top of the fact they're terrible on third down conversion percentage rate and fourth down conversion percentage rate. What it tells me is that what the Lions need to do is they need to have an efficient, effective passing game, which increases their odds for victory. Getting that run game going and having it balanced between both Gibbs and Monty, but I would say leaning more on Monty for the style of defense that the Steelers run will also help sway the outcome. And then, on top of that, if you limit the turnovers as a collective unit or don't even give a single turnover up, that massively increases the odds of victory. And with the fact that the Steelers are only 500 on the road this year and the Lions, when at home, are 5-2, which is a .714 win percentage rate, it tells me this. Your keys to victory are simple. Don't turn the ball over. Attack through the air effectively and efficiently. Make sure you're doing some quick throws. Make sure you're mixing it up with intermediate routes. And also play action passing, I believe, is going to be huge in this game because that feeds in with the running attack. And you have to think about this. The fact that the Lions are most likely going to get Mahogany back for this game, which means we're no longer going to be dealing with the revolving door of Cologne and frickin' Frazier, that's also going to help settle things down. Now, the real question is whether or not Glasgow's going to play because he just popped up on the injury report with the knee injury again. I don't know if he will or won't, but we'll see what happens. But the point of the matter is that the Lions' unique traits, which are unique primarily to them, which is don't turn the ball over and score a hell of a lot of points, that is something that is going to bode well for them in going up against a Steelers defense that in almost everything else they're not good at. But what makes them have the chance to give their team a possibility for victory and why they have an 8-6 record is the fact that they have been so good at getting turnovers. If you don't give that defense any turnovers, it's instantly going to cut the legs out from under them. Because you also have to think about this. The Steelers are not going to have TJ Watt in this game. He's already not practiced for 2 straight days, and the fact that he's still recovering from that collapsed lung pretty much at this point means he's not likely going to play, and everybody's already kind of going that route. It would be almost a miracle for him to play. So their best pass rusher and one of their best, turnover forcers is not going to be out there. So that's why I'm saying the Lions offense has the ability to really kind of amp up on the Steelers defense. They just have to be smart and don't turn the ball over, which is something that they have done as far as not turning the ball over all year. So that's my point. That's my episode. You do with the information what you will. But I'm saying it definitely can be done. And I wouldn't at all be surprised after what Goff had said earlier this week that does not at all happen. Because, as I've said before, when Goff gets irritated, when Goff gets pissed off, and when the offense has been relying a lot on Goff to get them in the positions they need to win, it tells me that Goff is going to have a very heavy hand in how this game is played and how well the Lions offense does, which means very good for us. So, having said that, I've come to the end of my episode, and I'm going to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you like the content and you had not yet subscribed, I want to also encourage you all to subscribe because it does help the channel out. But if you also subscribed in the past and you've not had a chance to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not had a chance to do so right now, please make sure you also hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I hope you all are doing well. Hope you all got some in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.